Greetings, YouTube. I was born in 1964. That means technically I'm a boomer because that was anyone born 20 years essentially after the end of the war. So 65 is actually the break point. That makes me an old, as my friend Amy likes to point out. She'll probably comment below about that as well. Uh, and when I was born, you pretty much didn't have an option to know anything about the gender of your child. You had the baby and you got what you got. And you didn't know what it was going to be until that baby popped out of the womb. Boop, there it was. Then they went about assigning what that baby was, because our understanding of gender was even more primitive in 64 than it is now in 2023. And right now our understanding of gender, at least in the general public, is sad. I am a well-informed layperson, but I am no expert by any stretch of the imagination. If you really want to know some things about trans people, for example, why don't you go ask trans people? The sad thing is that there are folks out there that will listen to me because I'm a cis white dude, a cis white straight dude to be specific. And they'll listen to me because of that. They will somehow assume that I have a greater degree of authority in some degree, some manner. I don't know how, I don't know why they do that. Probably because the whole patriarchy, white supremacist, that kind of crap, the toxic masculinity that's been plaguing us for who knows how long. Probably as far back as humanity has existed. Um, so you just got your baby. Now, some families were just happy, just thrilled that they had a healthy baby. My parents were worried I came out early. I was very long. I was very thin. Imagine, I was thin. I'm not thin anymore. Um, and they were concerned. I was in an incubator for a couple of weeks, I think it was, like 14, 15 days, something like that, until I was stabilized and was allowed to be let out. And my, my mother was standing at the incubator looking at me, unable to touch me at that time. And my grandfather looked down and said, I give him 3 days. Well, dude, outlived you. Um, but you just got what you got. Nowadays, you can tell what you're going to have before the child is born. And so there's these big blooming gender reveal parties that occasionally kill people. I don't quite understand that part. Um, and people still, the healthy ones, are happy no matter what the baby is. No matter what that test says, they're happy. They're happy if the kid's intersexed. They're still happy because they're healthy people who want a baby and want to raise a human being to adulthood to be a well-adjusted member of society, to be what they can be, and for them to be happy. That is the ideal, to give them the discipline and the freedom they need to be happy and healthy, because that is the best combination: high discipline, high tolerance. You're very tolerant of what your child does, so long as your child understands that they do live, in fact, in a disciplined world. You have to do this and this, but between these 2 hours, you can go explore your, interests in any way you wish, as long as you're not hurting yourself or hurting someone else, that kind of thing. You give them structure, but you also give them acceptance and tolerance. Sadly, that is the exception, not the rule. Most of the time in America and the world at large, parents have a pretty much preconceived idea of what their kid's going to be. In fact, some of them, like my father, for example, wanted to live vicariously through me. Because you see, he didn't think of himself as a success. So he was going to see if he could turn me into a success. I didn't work out the way he wanted to. I wasn't into sports and cars. I didn't give a crap about that. I was into reading and eventually into poetry, because that's how I tried to cope with all the abuse that he heaped upon me. Um, so I fell short of what he desired. He wasn't happy with the results. He was happy I was a boy, I guess, at first at least. But eventually I was in many ways confusing to him. If you're not willing to accept your kid for what they are, come hell or high water, cis, trans, straight, gay, asexual, aromantic, a sex worker, a fireman, anything they are, if you're not willing to accept who they are, you're a crappy parent. That's your job, to help raise a healthy kid. That kid didn't volunteer for this. They didn't sign up for this. They were not signing off on any consent forms. They had no choice. You brought them into this world without their consent. So it's your job to take care of them. At least up till the age they're 18, maybe longer if it's a happy, healthy family. And I don't understand why families don't continue to be happy when their kid steps forward and says, hey, I'm gay. Or, hey, I'm not really the gender you thought I was when I came out. I'm not the gender that the hospital told you I was. Maybe they're non-binary. Maybe they're poly. They're very fluid. It switches from day to day. They're 50-50 one day. They're 60-40 the other. They're 10-90 the next day. And sometimes they have no idea what they are. They are a electron cloud of gender possibilities. If you don't accept them for that, you're a bad parent. And I understand that a lot of people are upset and they're scared when their kid comes out and says, I'm trans, because that is not something that they wanted. That is not something they expected. They were not prepared for it. Many of them didn't know what it was, or what that situation entailed. And they have very little knowledge of how it actually works. Nobody is doing surgery on kids unless it's before they're 18, unless it's absolutely vital to their survival. Yes, they're being used. They're using hormone blockers and maybe hormone replacement therapy, but those are reversible. And the regret rate of people who actually make the transition is 1%. 1%. 1% of trans people who transition to their true gender, to who they really are regret having made the transition. Do you know how many women regret having a kid? It's 7. We don't talk about that either, do we? Just accept them for who they are. Be as happy the day they tell you they're trans as you were the day they were born. Sure, you may have thought that was your son, but you're wrong. Now it's they. And they haven't figured out if they're a boy or a girl. Well, sure, you thought you had a daughter, but suddenly you have a boy. Okay. Switch the pronouns. Help them change their name. Give them the support and love they need. Hopefully, the support and love they've always received. Why does it matter to you? Why is your preconceptions of what gender is more important to you than having a healthy, happy child? I want to know. Because your answer to that question is going to determine on what side of the line you fall when it comes to being a crappy parent or being a good parent. The ball's in your court, parents out there. It's your time to make the decision. It's your time to step up and treat your kid the way they need to be treated. Show them the respect and love they should have always received. If they haven't in the past, we'll start it now. They're still your kid. Their gender doesn't matter. Love them no matter what. It really isn't that complex.